And we are live. Hello, all the humans. Welcome to the Humanist Society of Greater Phoenix Sunday Speaker event. Please hit the like button and subscribe to get more of our awesome content, or better yet, become a member of HSGP and volunteer for something that fills you with joy. Today, we have Anastasia Bannikova, Peace with Peace Corps, a meaningful and fulfilling service to others and oneself. Anastasia Bannikova is a regional Peace Corps recruiter for the state of Arizona. She grew up in Kazakhstan and still fondly remembers Peace Corps teachers at her English language classes. She has served as a volunteer with Peace Corps in Ghana in agriculture, Ukraine, community development, and Armenia, youth development for 5.5 consecutive years, and has enjoyed traveling to different festivals and eating various local dishes. Needless to say, Anastasia is a fan of the Peace Corps mission, which is to promote peace and friendship across the globe. Prior to her career with Peace Corps, Anastasia worked in music, immigration law, reporting and translation industries in Philadelphia and Boston. She has a bachelor's degree in journalism from Lock Haven University of Pennsylvania and a master's degree in international development from Dalhousie University in Canada. As a recruiter, she assists applicants in choosing the suitable volunteer position, reviews resumes and motivational statements, and advises on how to be a competitive applicant for a Peace Corps service. Please give a big HSGP welcome to Anastasia Bannikova.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, everyone. I can see your applause, but you're muted, but that's okay. So yeah, again, I am Anastasia. I'm a regional recruiter for Peace Corps. I just moved to Arizona, so I'm fairly new to the heat and cacti and other prickly plants. But it feels like a new Peace Corps experience to me because I would move around every other year or so. So let me just start my presentation. I promise you it's actually going to be brief. I think it will be less than an hour. My computer also warns me that it's going to boot me in about an hour and a half or so. So hopefully I'll finish before that. So again, this is my brief bio. Ron asked me to tell you the story about avocado. Well, just briefly, this photo was taken in Ghana. And I'm holding an avocado indeed. It's grown in Ghana pretty widely, but they call it pears there. It's not avocados, it's pears. And I love this picture because it was taken behind me is this beautiful Lake Basomtwi, which is the perfect round lake. They say it was either from the crater of an ancient volcano or the meteorite lake. In any case, it's a beautiful lake, and I'm wearing a traditional Ghana print fabric dress and also a head wrap, which I haven't done before. I didn't really wear dresses until I came to Ghana. So there's just one of the little stories and little things that you can change your life about when you do Peace Corps. Also here, you can see that while I was a volunteer in all these different countries, I spoke local languages. I learned Twi and Sefwi, which is an Akan family of languages in Ghana. It's one of the widespread languages. I can teach you some phrases later on. And I am also a Russian Ukrainian American. So I was still am fluent in Russian language. So when I was in Ukraine and Armenia, I could still use my Russian language knowledge, but I also was very excited to learn Ukrainian, which is beautiful, very melodic languages, and Armenian, which is kind of complicated in writing. And you'll see it also later on in the presentation. So let's start first with the Peace Corps mission. In my mind, it actually matches your goals and your beliefs. It's basically, the mission is to promote peace and friendship all over the world. And we have three very simple goals. They haven't changed since 1961, since John F. Kennedy founded Peace Corps. The goal number one is more of a technical knowledge goal. It kind of makes you think of Peace Corps in the first place, is to help the people of interested countries in meeting their need for trained men and women and individuals. And so that is basically what volunteers do. They would come and help with agriculture projects or community development or teaching English. And the keyword here is interested countries. We do not just go anywhere and just kind of say, hey, we're going to help you. We need to receive official invitation from that country by the country's government in order to work in the particular projects. And then the other two goals are more of a cultural exchange goals. The second one is to promote better understanding of Americans on the part of people served. And that means that our volunteers who are American citizens, they would go out and would basically tell their stories. It's not, America has pretty bad rap and pretty stereotypical images of Hollywood movies and music videos that's what people watch, and that's what they think that what Americans look like. That's how they behave. That's, how many cars or how many houses they have. But that's not the complete American story in any shape or form. America is very diverse. We have tons of interesting people from the different backgrounds, immigration, ethnic backgrounds, etc. So this is the goal, to kind of educate the world of the diversity of America. And then the goal number 3 is kind of reverse, is to promote better understanding of other peoples and other cultures on the part of the Americans. So that is when our volunteers come back, or even if they are in their country of service, where they share their impressions, share their day-to-day routines with their friends and family through blogs, vlogs, phone calls, and then after they're done service with presentations like this one, where they lived, what they ate, what they did day to day, etc. So that way Americans actually be more aware of the world around them. And this is just a general breakdown of what our volunteers are kind of like recently. On the top is just our main requirement of how you can be a volunteer. Just 2 base requirements: US citizenship and at least 18 years old. You can be as old as you want. As you can see, our range is between 20 and 86. Our oldest volunteer was 86. Jimmy Carter's mother, Lillian Carter, also served at the age of 70 something. And so there's no age limit. I know you're all young at heart, so you can join at any time. And up to March 2020, that is when all of our volunteers were evacuated due to COVID-19 pandemic. Unfortunately, we had over 7,300 volunteers in the field in over, I want to say, 60 countries. So it's a big body of volunteers. So, and we've been, practically almost everywhere. And here you can see 95% of our volunteers have had at least an undergraduate degree, but it's not a requirement. You can either have a bachelor degree or master's or whatever, or the basis requirement is 5 years of professional experience that's relatable to the position. So you don't need to have a degree, but that's usually what happens. We have college kids joining Peace Corps, but we also had some mid-career people, retired people, of course. I joined Peace Corps myself in my 30s, so I kind of was an odd duck, but I've enjoyed it immensely. As you can see from my bio, I served more than once. This is just a snapshot of where we've been serving most recently. And so these are regions: Central and South America, Southeast Asia, Central Europe and Central Asia. Africa is the biggest volunteer generator, and the Pacific Islands. So there were more countries in the past. For example, we used to serve in India, Nigeria, Afghanistan. I'm sorry, yeah, but now it's Afghanistan in the news. And so again, this depends on the country's invitation, for a formal invitation to service. We're getting some new countries actually next year. We are recruiting for next year position. Vietnam has just formally invited Peace Corps and Peace Corps volunteers to serve as English language teachers. So that's exciting. So as you can see, things come and go. Some countries leave and some countries come back, or new countries come in. And here are our main project concentrations, so to speak. So as a Peace Corps volunteer, you will be serving in one of these main sectors, but that doesn't mean that is all you're going to do. So our biggest sector is education. And most of our volunteers teach English, as I mentioned, but we also have several positions that teach math and science in some countries, and these are very, very hard positions to fill. And those countries are very excited to get volunteers to teach math and science. Then agriculture, environment are kind of interrelated fields where volunteers work with local farmers, women's groups to improve their crops, to make sure that they, have like organic or sustainable farming practices. When I was in Ghana, I actually taught how to make batik and soap out of the local materials like beeswax and palm oil. They were all over, they were readily available. They were free for people to obtain. So this was like a income generating activity to them. And it was a lot of fun. Health sector volunteers usually do public health education outreach, like nutrition classes. They would be working with clinics or schools to talk about reproductive health, HIV prevention, malaria prevention, etc. So it's not like being a nurse, although we do have a particular sector of Peace Corps response program that actually recruits health professionals. But in this case, for 2-year programs like these, our volunteers would usually do public health outreach. And COVID-19 actually will be very important starting next year. Community economic development volunteers work with NGOs, local businesses, sometimes even local town governments, community governments, to improve business practices, to kind of help people think outside of the box of when they, thinking of how to build a business, a small business. When I was in Armenia, I actually helped with tourism development a little bit. So that can count also as economic development. And what else haven't I mentioned? Youth in development, working with youth. But you know what? In any cases, you will be working with kids no matter what. Kids will, surround you. They'll ask you to speak English. They'll ask you to speak local language. They will teach you the local language. So I wasn't really into kids, but I still worked with them. They helped me out. And so that I'm just warning you that will be your focus, no matter which sector you'll serve. And then on the bottom, you see secondary projects. And this is actually a lot of fun. Like I mentioned, you don't have to be in just one sector. It's not like a 9-to-5 job, as a volunteer. You will dabble in all these things that your communities would like you to help them with, if you also have some knowledge and passion. So for example, even though I was agriculture volunteer in Ghana, I helped with malaria prevention activities in my village. So that was health and also youth development. So all of these things can be combined. Our volunteers would do library projects, fitness clubs, movie nights, English clubs on the side for, outside of their, community. So all these things are basically the sky's the limit. So why choose the Peace Corps? Again, as Ron mentioned, the service to the people, service to others, that's actually our focus. But it's also a very good way to learn a lot about yourself and the world around you. Our projects are grassroots driven. They're not, top down, although, as a volunteer, you'll also learn a lot about local cultures, and that is where hierarchy actually has to kind of kick in. But the projects I usually have to grow organically. Our volunteers, always challenge themselves, and that I can, tell from personal experience. I was always challenged, no matter how comfortable I felt, the day before, there was still something that I would learn the next day. I'd be like, what, like really? And sometimes, there were some uncomfortable moments, but that is part of the human growth and inner growth and development. So again, I see Peace Corps service as not only service to others, and not in a way of like, oh, I want to help change the world. You're not going to change the world, but you may change somebody's attitudes. You may help a kid to learn and pick up English, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. So if you make a change in at least one person's life, that is actually already a victory. And the biggest thing is a challenge and service to yourself, because you as an individual will learn more about the world around you. You learn a lot about yourself. Absolutely. You'll have tons of time to kind of ponder on things you've done or you want to do in your life. You may change your career path like I did, completely 180. So that is why I advocate for Peace Corps service everywhere I go, and not just as a recruiter, but just like as a human being. So here's my story. Here's how I learned about Peace Corps. As Ron mentioned in my bio, I'm originally from Kazakhstan. It's a post-Soviet republic. I was born in Soviet Russia, then we moved to Soviet Kazakhstan when I was little. And then when the Soviet Union broke up in 1991, we ended up to be Kazakhstani citizens. And that is around maybe a couple of years later. That's when Peace Corps actually came to Kazakhstan and a couple other post-Soviet republics. So on the picture on the left is Meg. Megan was from Chicago. She was a Peace Corps volunteer teacher who would come to our school that I went to teach to study English, and that's me on the bottom, black and white photo with shaggy hair and a Beatles poster. And this is basically how I was learning English from Beatles songs, and really, really boring English classes. But when Megan was there, the classes were fun. She would teach us like real stuff, like the word stuff, for example. I did not know the word stuff. I didn't know how to say mashed potatoes. I was like, okay, the potatoes are cooked a certain way. I learned a couple of, interesting, useful phrases from her. She actually taught a live, real English language that was useful to us. And I enjoyed it immensely. And so the picture on the right is actually me in Ghana and Megan and my Peace Corps friends. We met 20 years later after those other pictures were taken, because we kept in touch, and she was so happy to see me. It was our first reunion in 20 years, from the mid 90s to early 2020 or late 2010s. And we still keep in touch. And this is basically a Peace Corps legacy. And I'm a product of Peace Corps. I've learned what Peace Corps was all about. And I also learned that Americans, that those volunteers were very, very brave. I just was so impressed with the fact that they would travel to our country with no running water, no electricity, or, very, very patchy electricity, would ride those rickety buses to schools, would basically freeze in winter and be really, really hot and sweaty in the summer. I was so impressed with the fact that they actually did it willingly, not being voluntold, but actually wanted to come and learn the language. Like they learned Russian language, they learned Kazakh language, they learned to cook, local dishes. So I made a promise to myself, like since I was 15, I want to be a Peace Corps volunteer, or at least work for Peace Corps. And now I'm doing both. So it's so exciting. So this is the legacy that you can actually see maybe 20 years from the end of your service. And this is what I tell other people who want to join Peace Corps. You're not going to see results right away. You may not see results maybe 2 years after you leave, but maybe 20 years, who knows? So the journey continues. So my first country of service was Ghana. And that was the time when you applied for Peace Corps, you couldn't really choose your country of service. You kind of, throw in your resume, all your skills, and then the Peace Corps will determine where to send you. So I was a little nervous, to be honest with you. I was not ready for Africa, but I'm so, so glad that Ghana chose me because it was amazing, eye-opening experience. Again, it was challenging, but it was just amazing. I really loved staying there. I even extended my service there. Usually our volunteers serve for 2 years, but I extended my service for a third year because I loved it so much. So there's just some facts, like, one does about Ghana. It's about the size of Oregon, so put it in the context, in the perspective. But it has 30 million people. Oregon does not have 30 million people. So what Ghana has lots of like big cities all over the country, and then tiny villages here and there, just like little hamlets, or maybe like 1,000 people villages. But they're just like a wall of humanity in the bush or in the savannah, and so we were mostly in rural Ghana, of course, but every time we go to the city, it was a little overwhelming. And a little bit about the flag. So Ghana was the first African country that became independent from the British rule, and then followed by other African nations from the Brits and from the French. And so they adopted Ethiopian flag because Ethiopia was never formally colonized ever. So they chose the colors, and they chose the black star as a symbol of Africa, West Africa. And then the money banknote, it's called CD. It's like $1, but maybe $1 is equal now 5 CDs, so it's pretty good exchange rate wise. And it depicts the big six. The big six. One of them, the first president of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah. He is on the top left. So these are the ones who inspired Ghana to be independent. Some of them served prison sentences in colonial prisons, including Kwame Nkrumah. But they were all also educated in Britain and America, and basically brought back the seed of independence to Ghana. And so Ghana was the first independent nation, and so exciting. So as I promised, I'm gonna show and even teach you some greetings and salutations if you'd like. So I learned Twi. Twi is one of the most widely used languages, local languages in Ghana, although the official language there is still English, ironically. So when you greet, you have to greet people. It's very important. Everyone greets each other in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. Even if you've seen them in the morning, you have to greet them again. So it's a very greeting heavy culture. And if you don't say hello, it's very rude. People will like shun you. When you go on a go on public transportation, you have to say good morning and good afternoon to everyone. Otherwise, the driver will not drop you off where you wanted them to be. So anyway, very important. So good morning sounds like mache, mache. Good afternoon is maha, maha. Good evening is majo, majo. So lots of ches and jizz sounds. And then the greetings are call and response. So every time someone tells you good morning, mache or maha or majo, you have to respond. And the responses are yenuya, meaning if you are same age, so it's like a brother, sister. Yenuya, like I see you. Yena, if an older lady greets you, yena, yena, or yeja, if an older man greets you. But usually younger people have to greet older people first. And they would say yenya to you back. So very important. Then Ghanaians also have this really fancy handshake where they snap as they like pull your hand out. And it just lots of gestures, lots of eye contact. They're very expressive Ghanaians. So I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot of facial expressions from them. Like it was very nonverbal sometimes, like, welcome is akwaba. That's what everyone tells you when they come to their village or their house, akwaba. And it's like, you are welcome. And then some of my favorite words are chale is friend. And Charlie comes from what? The name Charlie. Ironically, the legend said Charlie was a British soldier that was posted in Accra, the capital, and they would just call him Charlie, Charlie, and that means friend. And Charlie Wati literally means friend. You've heard? Have you heard friend? Charlie Wati, but it actually means flip-flops. So these are some things that I picked up in Ghana. So Akwaba, Mache, and Charlie Wati. This is where I lived. I lived in a little village called Adupri, which meant the other farm. It meant that people settled. They were lived in one village and then they resettled and developed more farms. So it was like, oh, it's the other farm. Just some snapshots of the street and the soccer game and my little courtyard. Ghanaians love soccer. They call it football, as everyone else does, except for Americans. The road to town was with this very red road dirt, but then it connected with a paved road that I could take a taxi to go to the market town. And then the street that you see on the lower right, it was the only paved street in the village, and that was where the action was happening. People would sell their food for breakfast. That's what taxi station was. That's where people hang out in the evenings after church, etc. And this is my little house. So I slept under mosquito nets because Ghana has malaria problem still, unfortunately, but we're working on it. My kitchen did not have a fridge, but I had a little camping stove and water filter. Water filter and mosquito net were provided by Peace Corps to us because you could not drink water from the well unfiltered. You had to filter it. I also boiled it so that way, everything kind of would disappear. But Ghanaians actually adopted the water situation. They would sell their little water bags, and you could just drink it for like 10 cents or something. And so that's how I drink my water. And the kitchen was pretty sort of skeletal kitchen, as you can see, but it had all the supplies. Although I did have mice and I had to kind of shoo them away and store my stuff in like double plastic bins. And in the middle is my latrine. I had my own latrine. It was beautiful. The village built me a latrine. It was special, painted blue. So I enjoyed the latrine very much. Those are the projects that I did. I already mentioned I was agriculture volunteer, so I raised rabbits. My village did not eat rabbits or raised rabbits in return, because most of them belong to Seventh Adventist Church, and the Adventists apparently did not eat rabbit meat. But I would just raise them and give them away to other volunteers. Here on the bottom, like I said, I taught malaria and HIV prevention skills, and these are some kids that received the certificates after the successful course exam. I also traveled to different villages during my third year with my counterpart, Uncle Sam. He is in a striped shirt, where we would talk to villages that did not have volunteers, and would just kind of say, hey, would you like one? This is what volunteers would do, and this is what you can do for them, etc. And just a note, you're probably wondering, so Ghana is very, very religious, extremely religious. There's Muslims, there's the different Christian denominations like Catholics, Adventists, Baptists, you name it. So as a non-religious person, it was a little bit challenging in this regard. But I kind of looked at it as like a cultural exchange again, and also community integration. So I would go to church as a guest, as one does, and we just kind of listen and observe. And that's where lots of action was happening in churches and mosques. People would do meetings, people would discuss grievances, people will talk about, the roads they need to build, the things the farms they need to help out with. So it was it was the place to be. So I actually made an effort to go to different churches in my village. Like I said, again, the biggest ones are Adventist church. And so it was like a very interesting experience to behold. And then in a way, I hope I wasn't, convincing like, okay, you should just stop belief. It was impossible to do, but it was just like a very good way to learn more about people. A little more pictures. So like I mentioned, I taught batik making classes. So there's a ladies like local tailor group that dyed some fabric. And then I did reading glasses distribution. So those ladies were going to the farm one day, and I had glasses in my bag, and I greeted them, and they're like, "Oh, you have glasses for us, sister?" I'm like, "Sure." So they tested their vision and then got glasses, went their merry way. And then on the right, this again, kids are doing some malaria HIV prevention through football activities. And of course, I traveled, and traveling was the most fun. So I went to different festivals. I went to the beach. I went, I did not go on this truck, but I saw a couple of trucks being this way. Fortunately, no one got hurt. But like, as you can see, Ghana does have paved roads, and it has a lot of traffic. So, just like any other country or state, including Arizona, I'm noticing lots of traffic here. And people were just welcoming, I would dance with them. People really liked the fact that you danced, that you tried to speak their local language. They're very appreciative. And I basically, that's people everywhere. They always appreciate when you make an effort. So a little bit more about public transportation about Ghana. So these are little mini buses that I took that I loved. And I mentioned you have to greet everyone. You're like this family unit once you're on this bus. They're called trotros. And they have funny sayings in the back and the front, as you can see. They're very cute. Usually, sometimes it's Bible verse or Quran verse, but sometimes it's those little proverbs, little sayings. And then on the right is the ferry that I took on Lake Volta. Lake Volta is a big artificial lake, and actually that's where they distill water for bottled waters and water bags. So yeah, ferry was a lot of fun. Some water experience. So I enjoyed traveling around as well. Ooh, food. Food is spicy in Ghana, very, very spicy, and lots of starches like tubers, like you can see, like plantains and, plantains and the tubers, but plantains and bananas were starchy. Yams, cassava, like taro, were starches. And then people would make really, really hot and spicy stews, and you would dip those starches, or you would fry the fish and you eat it with the fish, and also drink a beer or a Coke. And Coke, Sprite, and Fanta were called minerals in Ghana. It's like, oh, let's take a mineral, people would say, and that means let's go drink Coke. And people eat with their hands. That's me and my fellow volunteers eating out of the communal bowl. Again, Ghana, very communal. And I'm a lefty, so I had to learn how to eat with my right hand, greet with my right hand, do everything with my right hand, because left hand is dirty. You do not want to use left hand in Ghana, and actually a handful of countries. And again, Ghanaians have this very kind of belly laugh sense of humor. The sign says "stomach has no holiday," and it was a food shop. And it's true, stomach has no holiday whatsoever. Just some more beautiful pictures of Ghana. I really enjoyed their art. They're very creative. You know, they would have paintings and like murals on their walls. And on the left is me pounding fufu. Fufu is another national dish that people take with stew with using their right hand. Okay, moving on to Ukraine. So as I mentioned, I'm Ukrainian, partially Russian. I know, very conflicting sides as of this moment, but I really enjoyed coming back there as sort of a former, or well, as you know, having Ukrainian heritage. I felt like home. I felt very comfortable there. No one knew I was American because I spoke Russian. People were also did not mind me speaking Russian. All the stories about Ukrainians hating Russians, they're not true. There are some, you know, tensions, but it's mostly created politically. But everyone, you know, there are lots of Ukrainians who actually speak Russian and they don't mind. So Ukraine is bigger than Ghana. It's actually second largest country in Europe after Russia. And population is pretty big, lots of big cities, big industrial cities. That's how during Soviet times, lots of cities kind of were dedicated to in certain industry. And I'll talk about my city where I served in a moment. The official language is Ukrainian, but as I mentioned again, people spoke Russian left, right, and center. And I actually served in a region that was predominantly Russian speaking. A little bit about flag. The money, I don't really know the story about money, but the flag, as you can see, is blue and yellow. It's really beautiful, and it depicts the sky and the wheat fields. And actually, that's actually how Ukrainian a landscape looks like outside of the cities. Beautiful wheat fields or beautiful sunflower seeds, so yellow, or alfalfa, so yeah, lots of yellow, and the blue sky. It's beautiful. But according to the flag heraldics rules, those colors are supposed to be flipped. It's actually like not the right way to depict the darker colors should be on the bottom. Anyway, so it's a little weird. So Ukrainians speak Ukrainian and Russian, and these are Cyrillic languages, Slavic languages. So this is the Ukrainian alphabet. I know it looks a little weird, but here's the phrases that you can learn. So in Ukrainian, "привіт" is hello, but in Russian it would be "привет." So it's very, very similar, but Ukrainian is it's softer and more melodic. It's actually, after Italian, it's one of the most beautiful language by the sound of it. That was rated recently. So thank you, дякую, дякую, and до побачення, it's kind of like see you later, is bye-bye. And yes, see, as you can see, the field, I was not lying, the yellow and the blues, it's beautiful. I took it from the bus, so it's true. So I served in Mykolaiv. Mykolaiv, it was a shipbuilder city. So that's where they did build lots of ships, warships, civilian ships. And I kind of compared it to Oakland then, because Oakland, kind of rough shipbuilding crowd. And in the Soviet times, it was a closed city. Closed city in Soviet Union meant that people could not really freely move in there or actually move out, because again, the industry was top secret. You know, they didn't want any spies coming in. And it still kind of retained that kind of mistrust of foreigners a bit, because I had to register myself to live in the city, and I had to unregister myself when I was leaving. It was a mess. So yeah, there's still this like mistrust of any outsiders, unfortunately. But it was still a beautiful city. I enjoyed taking, you know, trams to work and just, you know, riding them for fun. The city was big. It was about 250,000 people. So it had like lots of amenities. It had McDonald's even. So yeah, they do like their McDonald's. But of course, you know, I'm going to talk about local food later on, you know, tons of great food and lots of adventures. This is just basically where I lived in Ukraine. There are lots of, kind of very imposing Soviet type of apartment buildings all over the city. But inside, people try to make it as cozy as they can. This is my roommate, also a fellow Peace Corps volunteer. Back then, we could actually share an apartment because we advocated for ourselves, like it's too expensive to live by yourself, blah, blah, blah. So they let us live in same place. And has a tiny kitchen, tiny bathroom, and that is how people in the Soviet Union lived for multiple generations. Some of these apartments would actually contain not just 2, but maybe 4 or 5 people sometimes, which Russians and Ukrainians learned to live in very, very tight spaces really easily. The food in Ukraine, of course, I loved Ukrainian food. I grew up on this food. Borscht, the red beet soup right here, is the staple. And then, of course, pierogis. Yeah, Ron, that's right. Pierogis are delicious too. They're stuffed with potatoes and cabbage. And actually, I just found a lovely Ukrainian restaurant in Mesa. My Ukrainian kitchen or my Ukrainian pierogies, something like that. Anyway, I went there. It was great. Great dairy products. So Ukrainians are all about yogurts and butter and kefir and all the good stuff. And after Ghana was not dairy friendly. They did not do any dairy products at all. So it was interesting to kind of live without dairy while liking the dairy, and then coming back to the dairy rich country. And then it took a little time to adjust, if you know what I mean. So, and of course, there's horilka. Horilka is the moonshine, different flavors. People drink it all the time. And they, people do toast. They celebrate. Ghanaians were a little more sneaky about their alcohol consumption. They had spots, which means like a bar. They would go to a spot for a mineral or a beer, but they would also do their moonshine, but they were kind of like pretending they were not drinking it. But Ukrainians don't care. They just drink. And there's just my adventures in Ukraine. So because I kind of was comfortable with the culture, I wasn't really, well, I was learning, of course, but I joined the running club there because I really enjoyed running. And also I did like a not tourist, but a trek across the mountains for like 5-6 days was my first big trek. We did camping, we cooked things on the fire, and it was just a lot of fun. It was a lot of outdoor activities. So there's just my medals that we went to different cities, different Ukrainian cities for racing. They're actually pretty fun. More and more people in Ukraine are into fitness, not just for to look good, but also to actually feel good. That's actually was a big change based on my time in post-Soviet space, where it was all about dieting and nothing else. But now people kind of learning to love their bodies and enjoy outdoors. And my project in Ukraine consisted of working on, again, HIV prevention. The NGO I was paired up with worked with actually HIV positive people that were actually greatly stigmatized. So we did conferences with them. We did camps for youth that were born with HIV. Unfortunately, Ukraine has basically one of the highest HIV rates in Europe. And so this was my focus. And then I also, of course, did the English club on the side because everyone wants to learn English there. And people really appreciate the practice. And I was in Ukraine for only 1 year. I did so-called response program that was actually targeted for more professionals and with more experience. It is more short-term. It's between 3 months to a year. So, and it was perfect for me. It was 1 year in Ukraine was great. As I mentioned, I have family roots. So this is my mom. My mom is Ukrainian. And when she visited me, we actually came to this little village, Velika Krucha, that where her father comes from, my grandfather. And the picture on the left is my great-grandmother. So that's where she came from too. And I actually have her embroidered shirt that's on the picture, like very, very vintage. So it was really great to kind of come back to these roots and appreciate where I'm from and kind of feel more Ukrainian than Russian, because we were raised in a Russian-speaking household, and we were mostly focusing on Russia. But Ukraine actually now holds a very big place in my heart, and I kind of feel culturally more Ukrainian than Russian, to be honest with you. So this was a lot of fun as well. And finally, just some snapshots of Ukraine life. That also public transportation, minivans are big. And then on the left is a picture of the postcard that one of the local artists made depicting Mykolaiev's main buildings. I hope you kind of remembered some of them. They're pretty noticeable. And finally, Armenia. So this is my third post, and I was there for a year as well, but that was because we all had to be evacuated last March. So I only completed 1 year of my 2-year service there, but 1 year was a pretty sufficient time as well. So it's a tiny country that's squeezed between Turkey, Russia, and Azerbaijan, and unfortunately now there was a war with Azerbaijan again recently, and Armenia lost some of its territory again. So it's in a tight spot, like literally, but it's still beautiful. People are very hospitable. Fun fact, more Armenians live outside of Armenia than in actual Armenia. As you may know, there's a big Armenian population in California and also France. That basically again happened because of the territorial struggles and Turkey basically exterminating poor Armenians in 1915. But they're pretty resilient and proud people. A little bit about flag. The flag depicts the blood, the sky, and the apricot color, because they love the apricots. They also make vodka out of it. So yeah, so I was in the south of Armenia. Oh, and ironically, I served in the south in all these 3 countries. Every time I would be placed in the south, I'd be like, yeah, okay, great. I mean, different circumstances, different reasons, but what Peace Corps tries to do, they try to place you with a community that actually would be exciting and fun for you, and that way you can use your skills and experiences. Also culturally too. For example, Ghana in the north was more conservative, it was more Muslim, but in the south it was kind of less so, and so I was in the south in Ghana. Same thing in Armenia. Armenia was less conservative in the south, so maybe women like me could be kind of heard more freely than, let's say, if I were placed in the north. So there's just different circumstances. So Armenia is just beautiful. It's a beautiful mountainous land. Mount Ararat basically faces Armenia from Turkey, and for Armenians, that's their symbol. That's the symbol of their people, of their heritage. Armenians love coffee. They always try to invite you for coffee. You can drop in at any time. They will always try to drink coffee with you. And the bottom picture is the picture from the town where I served, Sisyan, and that is where we tried to develop tourism there better, but it was just breathtaking, but a little underdeveloped, but hopefully someday it will happen. Again, food is just delicious. It's more hearty. It's not spicy, but it has lots of dried herbs, and as you can see, like roasted pumpkin, and jingal of huts on the bottom right is this basically fried bread with herbs and dolma and wine. So yeah, I enjoyed eating there so much. I gained like 10 pounds, but it's okay. So yeah, food was delicious. Everywhere you go, the food is delicious. You learn to love it. But to be honest with you, lots of volunteers and myself, sometimes we just crave American food, but that's normal. That's just normal. So this is an Armenian alphabet, and completely different from Slavic or Latin. It's out there. So just a little language lesson. So barev dzez is hello. It's like hello to you all. Barev dzez. Barev means kind or good. Shnora kalutun is just simple thank you, but it's the most complicated word that volunteers learn at the very beginning, and after that it's all downhill from there. So as long as you learn Shnora kalutun, as you can see here, you'll be fine. And the picture on the bottom depicts the statue of Mashtots. Mashtots was the philosopher who actually came up with this alphabet for Armenia, and also then later on he came to Georgia, which is just next door in the country, not the state, and came up with the alphabet for them. And it's even more twisty. And Armenians and Georgians usually have this rivalry between each other. What they say, no, well, our alphabet was first, or our alphabet is the best, our wine is the best. So they always have this rivalry. So these are my projects that in Armenia, and just some of the things I've seen. As I mentioned, I was placed with a tourism development agency, and we came up with this a lovely poster, lovely, what's it called? I forgot the word. You know, you put things on the highways. So just to kind of attract people to come to Sisian, off the beaten track, because usually people would travel all the way from Yerevan, the north, the capital, all the way to the south, because that's where the all the monasteries were cooler. I don't know, things were more developed tourism wise, and Sisian was just kind of forgotten. So we just kind of tried to kind of ease people in, and so they could stay for a day or two. The picture on the top is English Club for Guides at our tourism center, when they had a little gift shop there as well. So I worked with local artisans, local guides. We tried to kind of make sure that the customer service English is there. So local business owners will come in and ask, okay, how do I open my B&B for like booking on booking.com or Airbnb? And we would show them that as well. So it was actually a lot of fun. And like, I don't have a formal tourism experience, development experience, but I have lots of experience in tourism. So kind of when you have like this outside knowledge, that is what people really, really want you to share. Again, it doesn't have to be something that you have a degree in, but if you do have passion and experience in that, that is what people really, really crave and want you to teach them. Some of my fun stuff again. So I hiked a lot and ran a marathon there. And again, people would love me to have for coffee. And that was their pastime. So just another lovely coffee date. And that's where people would talk to you and you would learn your Armenian. Oh, well, so I'm done with my life story, Peace Corps story per se. I do have a couple of slides about Peace Corps benefits if we have enough time. Ron, do we have enough time? We do. Okay, great. So let me just switch gears a little bit. So, I'm talking about my experiences, of course, they were lovely, but, Peace Corps doesn't mean that you go out there and live on your dime. We do have lots of benefits for volunteers. We provide with a monthly stipend and housing for volunteers. There's a great medical dental coverage. It was the best coverage that I've ever had in my life. And some student loans can be deferred or canceled depending on the loan. And the great career skills and training. Again, as a volunteer, as a candidate, if you do want to join Peace Corps, you don't have to know everything. Again, you can either have 5 years of experience or a bachelor degree. But we appreciate if you have volunteer experience, or if you have some sort of experience in one thing or another. And that is how you can be placed in a community that actually would love to use your experience. Benefits after service are also pretty great. There are some funds like to ease yourself back into the American way of life, because America is very expensive, much more expensive than all the countries I served in. And then if you are interested in working for federal government, there is a so-called non-competitive eligibility for 1 year, where you can your resume can go to the top of the pile, and you can be interviewed and actually get the job faster, quicker than the usual process. There's great grad school benefit. It's called Coverdell Fellowship, and ASU and University of Arizona and NAU, they all have it. Different colleges have it. They need to offer up to 25%, not up to, starting of 25% off tuition, but sometimes it's a full ride. Sometimes it's a TA-ship, or again, full tuition waiver, and even something extra. So great benefit. And it's a lifetime benefit. So all our return volunteers there eligible for that benefit all their lives. So I may use that eventually. Did someone have a question? I'm done. I'm almost done. This is my contact information. I'm going to post it in the chat. Thank you guys so much for having me over, and I will be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Anastasia. That was awesome. I'm very interested in your experiences. That was really neat. As always, go ahead and raise your hand if you have a question. I'll lead off with a couple. So you said it was too expensive to live by yourself, so you roomed with another person. How can you explain that? How does that work? How do you get housed? How do you find a person? So
Sure. Yes, a great question. So a lot of what happened, that was more of an exception from the rule that usually happens. Usually volunteers, first you go to the country of service together with a group, and you go through a 3-month intensive training where you learn the language, culture, technical knowledge, etc. And that is where you're placed with a host family for those 3 months, and they just take care of everything. They wine dine you, they feed you, they have a room for you that's secure just for you, and that's, you don't have to worry about anything. And then it depends on the country of service and the arrangement that they do with the community. When you go to your community to serve, you either will have to pay rent that Peace Corps actually will provide you with, or a community will provide you with just the housing. And in some countries of service, you are required to live with a host family again in your community throughout the duration of your service, or for the first 3 months. It depends. So in Ghana, I did not have a host family in my community, and they just provided me with housing, so I didn't have to pay anything. But in a retrospect, the entire village where I lived was basically like my family. They all knew where I lived, what I was up to, etc. In Ukraine, because we lived in the city, that was a little different. You couldn't really just get a free apartment anywhere. That's not how it worked. And even though the stipend was enough, like sufficient for like if you live by yourself, me and the other volunteers, we found out like basically the prices kind of went up while we were kind of transitioning. And so we advocated for ourselves, like, hey, it's expensive to pay a rent, and then like I may not have enough money for like utilities. Like the utilities in Ukraine kind of tended to be expensive during the winter, especially. So we advocated for ourselves to stay together, but that was an exception, because in Armenia, again, I was placed with a host family in my community. I paid them a little bit of rent and like maybe for like food, like breakfast, lunch, and then I could make an arrangement of, okay, I'm just going to cook for myself, but I'm just going to pay you for like room. So again, it depends on the post.
okay.
But usually the stipend would cover your rent or and like food expenses.
Gotcha. So speaking of food, you mentioned that there was a good Ukrainian place that you found in Mesa. I missed what that was. Where was that?
I know. I went there a couple of weeks ago, and I think it's My Ukrainian Kitchen or My Ukrainian Pierogis.
Okay.
Or Pierogis Kitchen. Yes, Pierogis Kitchen. Yes. So it was amazing. And they have a little store actually where you can buy frozen pierogis and other like stuff like pickles and Ukrainian stuff. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, awesome. So Susan asks, how has the Peace Corps evolved since it was founded by JFK?
How does it evolve?
How has it evolved since that time?
Okay, that's a great question. And on one hand, it evolved immensely. On another hand, not at all. Mission and goals wise, it did not change. The goals are the same. The mission is the same. However, the way volunteers serve, of course, have changed because the world around us has changed. If in the 60s and 70s, it was more of a volunteers come and dig wells and just kind of, or I've even helped with vaccination, polio vaccinations in Afghanistan, I heard. Now, of course, that is not the case. So the volunteer service evolved immensely because, again, the world has changed. And some of the things like technology has changed. So the way volunteers are in touch with each other, their families, and also the post office are different. If back in the day, if Megan, she was telling me, Megan in the 90s in Kazakhstan would be just dropped off at her community and never to be heard from for like at least 3 months. Now, when I was in Ghana, we all had cell phones, so we all had to text our whereabouts to make sure that the post, because they're responsible for our safety and security, in case something would have happened to us, they would at least know where we were approximately so they could get us. So that's how it changed. I remember another colleague of mine, he served in Kenya in the 90s. He was just dropped off in the village and be like, okay, see you next year. Yeah, that's how it was. But I remember, and then now, of course, again, we're more connected. There's more opportunities for volunteers to meet up. There are more ways to communicate, and also were more opportunities to train. I remember after 3 months in my community, we all came back again as like to kind of recap on our first 3 months in the community, what we did, what we did not do, what we thought we would do, etc. And I don't think it was the case, in the 60s when volunteers came, in Ghana, which Ghana, by the way, was the first Peace Corps country as well. So they get lots of firsts. Yeah.
Cool. So what life lessons do you bring forward from the Peace Corps into your life today? How has it changed your action, speech, and behaviors?
Action, speech, and behaviors. I thought I was actually pretty open-minded before I joined Peace Corps, and then I was like, nope, because you always learn something new. You always get to, and so I became comfortable with being uncomfortable, because we all have our own truths, we all have our own beliefs, but we cannot just simply come somewhere to somebody's house and say, you are wrong, that is not how it's done, or vice versa. They cannot just say, well, this is the American way, your American way is not our way, so that is what I've learned, to be comfortable by being uncomfortable, learn to talk with people from different backgrounds without being offended. That is what is actually happening in America, which is I'm very, very disappointed about. Even though we have different beliefs, different political affiliations, different everything, we can still find common language, and unfortunately people are losing that. So that is what I'm actively working on that for myself. I lived in Montana right before I moved to Phoenix. It was basically a continuation of Peace Corps service for me, because I'd never lived in Northwest, although I did live in a rural area, and people around me, they were great, very helpful people, but they had different beliefs than me. And I actually managed to talk to them about it without being like, well, you're wrong, or well, F you, that type of stuff. So that is what I'm learning, still learning. But that's Peace Corps kind of triggered that. And just so you know, Ron, I have 13 minutes before my computer restarts.
Okay.
It's coming.
So you moved to Montana after,
Yes.
So why Montana?
Okay. So I lived in Boston before I joined Peace Corps. I'm a city person, I'm a city girl. Even Almaty, the city in Kazakhstan, is a big city. It's actually a sister city of Tucson. So I'm very excited to explore Tucson later on. When we were all evacuated in March 2020, and because my last home of record was Boston, they just sent me back to Boston, and Boston was not really doing well. And I don't have a family in America, in the US. All of my family members are still in Kazakhstan, but they were also closed. You couldn't really fly anywhere. And so I kind of felt that I can go anywhere if I could. And I found, and also I really wanted to decompress. After living so many years overseas and you're going back to the US or wherever, you're not the same person. You cannot, or you do not like the same things. You're not used to it anymore. Especially during pandemic. That was, to be honest with you, it was very hard. None of my friends could see me, and the ones who did not believe in pandemic actually saw me. But then again, we were in a completely different plane of understanding of where things were going. So I could not see them either. So I decided, okay, let me just kind of find a little hamlet within the US, kind of to figure things out, to be, yes, I'm a social person, but to be as safe as possible, to keep everyone else safe. And I found an alternative to Peace Corps, which was a farm sitting. So I found a little farm in Montana, and that's where I spent my year there, while kind of decompressing from Peace Corps, figuring things out, getting this job, and that was remote, so I could do it from the farm as well. And I've learned a lot about animal husbandry. Also learned that I'm still a winter person, that I love winter, I love snow, and just kind of challenge myself through that. And also realizing, again, going back to the question with kind of how I changed, I basically every other year I have to move somewhere else. That is what I've discovered. I'm still seeking kind of my home, my spot. So that's why I was in Montana. It was near Livingston, Park County, which is near Yellowstone, the north from Yellowstone. It was beautiful. And it reminded me Armenia as well. So that was a kind of good continuation.
Very cool. Very cool. Roger, go ahead, sir.
I understand that there are limitations on how many volunteer years you can do.
No, there is
there,
not.
Oh,
No.
it's not. So are you currently a volunteer, or are you like up in a different position now?
I'm now working for Peace Corps. I'm a recruiter. What the limit is 2-year assignments per country of service, but you can extend your service there for an extra year or maybe more. You used to do that. And then if you like to apply for another country of service, you do that. And this is exactly what I did consecutively. There is no limit yet for volunteer service, but there is a limit of working for Peace Corps. There's a 5-year limit of employment for Peace Corps, and this is where I am right now.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Very cool. Well, I'm glad to have you here in Arizona. I hope to see you around, and I thank you very much for bringing this to us today. Marty's got a question. Go ahead, Marty.
I found a restaurant.
Excellent.
It's on baseline between Mill and the 10. It's Al Pierogi. Does that sound right?
All Pierogi Kitchen, All Pierogi. Yes, thank you.
That's it. Yes.
I highly recommend it.
And
Well, if I can
I
get
don't know how
Porsche,
you
I'm
say
there.
now in Russian. Yaniga, no, I can't even say it. I was doing it fine a while ago. Yani gavaru po-ruski.
It's okay.
Now.
Thank you, Marty.
Okay.
Just before my computer kicks me out or the meeting is over, whatever comes first. I'm a Arizona recruiter for Peace Corps. So if you are interested in learning more, again, my contact information is there. But if you are in a different state or even a country, but you're an American citizen, you can basically click on the link, connect with the recruiter in your area. And that is where you type your zip code or country of service country of residence, because our virtual recruiters can reach out to you this way and ask them questions. So, but yeah, I'm excited to be here as well. Hopefully to join you in different meetings as a non-speaker, just as a member.
Awesome. It'll be good to have you. So before we wrap, are there any books, podcasts, anything you'd like to promote? And what is your email address or contact information?
You mean me or
Yep.
everybody?
You.
So I posted my email address. I have so many recommendations. My favorite book on Africa is written by the Polish reporter who reported on various African countries during their independence years. I cannot access chat really anymore, but it's called The Shadow of the Sun. The Shadow of the Sun. Excellent book on Africa. I'm actually reading another Africa book, but it's not as good as this one. The Shadow of the Sun. The reporter's name is last name is Krzyżanowski. It's very Polish. But if you basically Google Shadow of the Sun, you'll see his collections of stories on Africa. Ukraine is the good book on Ukraine is called The Black Square, and it's about HIV work in Ukraine as well as just general history. And I forgot the author, but I think if you do Black Square plus Ukraine, you will find this book. I do recommend it as well. I would also just Google. I do love music, and so everywhere I go, I try to learn more, about classic, folk music, classic music, pop music of that country. And so in Ghana, I highly recommend classic high life music. High life, it's an entire brass band experience. That's where blues and soul basically came from. It came from west coast of Africa, and that's very, very similar, the high life. And Ukraine, I recommend the singer Onuka, Onuka. She's very experimental, but she also uses folk Ukrainian instruments and costumes and just heritage in general. And then Armenia, I'm blanking out, but do you know the group Capital Cities from California? They have a song, Safe and Sound. I can lift you up, I can never wanna be and tell you what you wanna be. One of the guys is Armenian American, and he recorded different songs with Armenian artists. And one of their songs is called Vuy Aman, VUYAMAN, and it's just beautiful. It's poppy, but it's just beautiful. It was filmed in Armenia, the music video that is. So I mean, if you reach out to me, I can send you the whole list. I just wasn't expecting just to do anything in writing right now, but yeah, I'm always trying to learn.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for bringing this before our community and the interwebs. With that, I wish to thank everyone for coming and putting this important issue before us. As always, if you like our content, please subscribe, hit the like button, or volunteer. With that, be well, stay safe, and goodbye, HSGP.